Okay, in this video, we're going to take a look at factors. So make sure you put today's date in the upper right-hand corner of your notes. Okay, so factors, let's define that word. Factors are numbers that multiply to get another number. Another word that you want to know when working with factors is product. And a product is the number produced or the result of multiplying two factors. So factors are just numbers that multiply together to get another number, and then the product is what you get as a result of multiplying. So some notes about factors. Any number has 1 in itself as factors. So any number you can multiply itself by 1 and get the product of that number. So every number, that's true for every number. To figure out other factors, you have to use divisibility tests that we learned before. So remember, divisibility tests were ways to tell if you could divide a number and get an integer and not a decimal. So let's look at some numbers as an example. So let's say consider 36. Okay, so factors of 36. So I want numbers that multiply together to give me 36. That's what it's asking. So what numbers multiply together to give you 36? So we said a number always can be multiplied itself by 1. So 1 times 36 is a factor. So those are both factors of 36. I can use 1 times 36 to get 36. Now I'm going to use my divisibility tests. So the next number would be 2. Since 36 is even, that means we can divide it by 2. So 36 divided by 2 is 18, so 2 times 18. Those are factors of 36. Then you would check 3. So remember, with the rule for 3, you add the digits in the number. 3 plus 6 is 9, and then 9 can be divided by 3, so that means that 3 is a factor. And in this case, it's 3 times 12. Because 36 divided by 3 is 12. Next, you would try 4. Remember, the rule for 4 is that if it's a multiple of 4, that means you can divide it by 4, and 4 times 9 would actually give you 36. Next, we would check 5, but remember the rule for 5 is that the number has to end in a 5 or a 0. So right away I can tell this is not a factor. 5 is not a factor because it does not end in 5. So 5 would not work. So now the other numbers you would check would be 6, and here you could just use a calculator and divide. So if I use the calculator, and I did 36 divided by 6, as long as I get a whole number as my answer, that means it's a factor. So here in this case, 6 times 6 works. Then you would check other numbers like 7, 8, just to see. So again, I would do 36 divided by 7. That gives me a decimal, so that means it's not a factor. And I could do 36 divided by 8. Also gives me a decimal, so that's not a factor. You could also check 10. Remember, the number has to end in 0 to be divisible by 10. So in this case, that is not a factor as well. So really, we're just starting to see these numbers repeat in order now, because we would have this written backwards: 9 times 4, 12 times 3, 18 times 2, and 36 times 1. So those are all ways to multiply to get 36. So the list of the factors for 36 that we found, put them in order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18, 36. These are all numbers I can use to multiply with another number on the list to get 36. These are called factors. Okay, so let me ask you a question and see if we're able to do it. Which are factors of 45? So let's say 7, 5, 9, or 10. So remember, when you're asked if it's a factor, you're asking yourself, can I multiply this number with another number to get 45? So you can use your divisibility rules, or you can use a calculator to check. Alright, so let's try 45 divided by 7. That gives me a decimal, so that is not a factor of 45. The number ends in 5, so that means that I can divide it by 5, so that means it's a factor, because 5 times 9 is 45. So right there I just found those two as factors, because 5 times 9 gives me 45. Remember, for it to be divisible by 10, it should end in a 0. So in this case, again, this is not a factor, because you can't multiply 10 with a number to get 45. So figuring out if a number is a factor just means, can you use another number with that factor to multiply to get the product of what you're asking for? So in this case, 5 times 9 was 45. So when you're looking for factors, you're looking for all the numbers, whole numbers, that you can use to multiply to get the asked for number. Okay, so you can either use a divisibility test or a calculator to check which numbers are factors.